talked about kits, we talked about licensing, we talked about sanitation, we talked about where we came from, but I think it's like, okay, then where do we go from here? So now we're makeup artists, and you know, what's next? So we talked a little bit about like resources, and we talked about a class that we took with our mentor, Crystal Wright. Yeah, I think there's so many resources out there.
It's so, I mean, to really just to start off, you know, I officially sort of started my freelance journey in 2009. That was like my first job on Craigslist, my first job, and it was like an aha moment. Because from there, I was able to network with different artists, and that's how I came upon Crystal. Actually, no, let me take it a step further. Let me go back. It was actually the Powder Group is where I first heard about Crystal, because they have this thing called the Makeup Show. So we talk about resources. The Powder Group and the Makeup Show is probably, at least in my opinion, one of the #1 resources as a working makeup artist that you should go to. Not only are they a great group of artists, it's just an amazing network and just sort of collective of like-minded creatives that are truly there to elevate this industry. So it was about 2009. It was actually the second year of the Makeup Show that I happened upon Crystal. She had a little booth at the time, and you know, it was weird at the time because this was the second year, but it had already had a lot of momentum. These artists were already well established. I mean, they were editorial celebrities, so it wasn't like, you know, this was sort of brand new to them. But the idea of just a makeup show outside of IMAX, where you had artists it was based in New York City, where you can just sort of truly network face to face and really just sort of, you know, now that we are off the set and we are in person, let's kind of talk about what got us here. So she was selling copies of her book, and you know, I had purchased it because it was the only thing there like that. There was no one else there who was talking about how to be a freelance artist. you know, you had makeup there, you had, you know, bags, you had, you know, you had a handful of artists from really small reality shows that were, because I don't even want to get into, again, aging myself, that were there. But I mean, you had a lot of makeup there. You know, you did have a couple of YouTube artists, but this was very much in its infancy. So she was the only one there that was talking about that. And so I was interested and I was curious. And then come to find out, as you sort of walk around, you know, you're holding your book, she's amazing. She helped me this and that. And then it's sort of like, okay, the people who I came here to see and talk to, they've actually sort of walked this path. Let me dig into it. And so I'll never forget really making that decision. And I don't want to cry because you already know. I remember actually being...
Cancer.
the water sign. I just remember actually being at my full-time job teaching and feeling literally stuck, as Crystal says, and making the decision with my husband to do this because I was so excited. I remember I came back, because it's always in like May, and I remember I came back and it was warm out and like being so excited for it, but it was an investment. And so I had to really go, okay, this is one of the biggest investments that I've made so far, or I'm going to make. And when I decided to do it, actually calling Crystal, I think I left a message and her calling me back. I remember I was like, I gotta go. Took the call outside, I walked the parking lot, and I just remember standing in that parking lot and going like, it's behind me. All steam ahead. And she called me, she spoke, and when I tell you that she really truly manifests what she says she's going to do into what you need to do for your career, it was an amazing moment. That was in 2012, and I've never looked back. It was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my carear. And every artist I encourage,
I was just about to say, and then I went because, you know, she had encouraged me, said how great it was, and how much she learned about the industry, about how to get where you want to go, because everybody's path is so different and what we want to do in this industry is so different. And she was doing this class, PYP, and it was a 4-day intensive, like on-site class with her, and I met some of the most amazing artists that I'm still, you know, loving today. We all stay in contact. I think that's another part of like her group. We're making this all about Crystal Wright, by the way, but it's fine. We'll get back to topic. She is really amazing. But I still keep in contact with some of those artists today, and they're doing big things. Like a lot of them wanted to do film and TV, and they are doing it. And really, she just gives you the tools. So back to resources and the fact that this is, what we're talking about. She's an amazing resource. She does have books. If you don't want to take a class, she has a Win Now membership or mentorship.
Yeah,
mentorship program that she does. I'll drop some of this in the paragraph below the video. That way you can check those out if you want to. But she's an amazing resource out there. And I want to kind of piggyback and kind of move into the next person too. I'm thinking about like assisting. So how to kind of get to the next level or the next space in your career, and assisting other artists that you want to be doing what they're doing is super important. Just remember, we can all learn something. I learn something from Nicole every day. She probably learns from me. We learn from our newest team members. We learn something new every single day. And we really need to like humble ourselves and realize that we can always learn. So I think that assisting other artists, even if it's unpaid, is totally worth it to get that knowledge from them. And some, they can tell you so many things. And again, you get so many great networking out of it and camaraderie.
And I mean, so going back to like what you were saying, like assisting and finding that artist, at the time when, I went through this course in 2012, the idea of assisting was really like, okay, this is the big league. You're assisting artists who are maybe established on set. It was a little bit scary to go like, is there value in me being there? Am I good enough to be there? And there were steps that Crystal recommended that you take. And in taking those steps, I was able to definitely find, those artists who I'd seen their work, like in Essence or Ebony Magazine, and it was incredible. However, now things are changed. This industry is full of literally like superstars and rock stars everywhere. So you don't necessarily have to travel to like a big major market to assist. You could literally assist with, Glam on Demand.
Yeah.
There are artists everywhere who are literally booked and busy, who if you reach out to them in the appropriate way, they may be willing to take you on. And that really goes into how do you approach them and who are they? One of the things that Crystal has sort of ingrained in me, and I repeat it often, is who's in your sandbox? Who is in your sandbox? And that was like, what? It really made me think about who am I as an artist, but where do I want to go? Imposter syndrome is inevitable for so many people at so many levels in your career. But, I no longer want to be a $40 face artist. So who is in the sandbox that I want to sort of go into? So it had to be about, who's in this area. Do your research. Again, even in 2012, it was a little bit easier, but still very difficult because, it was mainly just websites. You didn't really have a lot of social media presence, but now there are artists everywhere, so use what's in front of you, use those resources. So who is in your area or who is in your sandbox, who is in your market, what style do you want to assist, what type of style does an artist have that you want to assist to learn things? You don't want to take from them, you want to learn from them because they can also learn from you. And again, as Ashley says, be humble. I am not above cleaning somebody's brushes. Ever.
She literally just cleaned mine yesterday, so that's why she's saying this. No shade, I'm sure.
No, I'm not above it. I'm not above it because you learn so much from it. And assisting is honestly, I think it's amazing because you can actually see things happen in real time, and you can make the changes in your mind. You're like, that's how you say that. That's how you do that. They're not going to necessarily give you the secrets, but they're going to help to give you tools to make your experience better.
And I will say there's another book that I'll also drop down, in the little paragraph. But Assisting Rules by Deshaun Hatcher, I think is super important because there's rules and etiquette behind it. Kind of like she said about like just approaching people the right way about assisting. There's also correct things to do on set while you're assisting and not giving out your business card because this is not your job. I'm just gonna mention that one, but there's more and more and more. But there's proper etiquette on how to assist on projects too. And I think that is one thing that people forget is this isn't your job. You're not going to get the credit for this particular job. You're here to learn. You're here to elevate yourself. And yeah.
And speaking of Deshawn, she actually is coming out with a new and updated version.
Ooh.
And I believe it's going to be available on like devices. I remember I saw her post, but it's updated because I have a physical book, but it's updated. It actually has some really great resources from the last time it was printed. So definitely check that out, because I actually am going to do that. I like physical books, but I like my devices. So it's going to be easy to have on set and have on hand versus having to flip through pages.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.